Hello everyone, Key of W here with my own game, Pod's Itty Bitty Adventure. I would like to first apologize to both of my fans for taking so long to make another devlog of this. Some of it is I just forget to do that kind of stuff, but really I wanted to hold out until I had the demo live on Steam, and that just took a long time to happen because I was all aboard the struggle bus getting Steam's API to work with my computer and all of that. But now, if you go to the store page for Pod's Itty Bitty Adventure, you can wishlist the game so you go to heaven when you die, and you can check out the demo here, download it yourself, and play. This demo is an older build of the game, so there are some changes with how it will be in the full thing, but it is representative of how the game will play. So I would love it if you did that and make sure it works. If the demo doesn't work for any reason, then publicly shame me, make a Twitter call-out post, because I really want to make sure this thing is functioning, and I want to do the best I can for both of my fans. So the rest of this video, I'd like to talk about some of the things I'm working on in the game. It's going to be mostly like little things, little design things that I'm realizing as I go through. So without further ado, let's jump into the game. And here we are in the first room of the game, where I learned a valuable lesson about player feedback. And not so much feedback, actually, as like watching playtests and understanding where players got confused or struggled, and trying to internalize the general rule that if a player ever feels bad, they're correct. You just internalize that. It's easy to get defensive and say it's a skill issue if a player's having a bad time. But if I am a good designer, I can work around this. And here is the problem. I can't jump, right? That is the vision for this game. You start with no jump ability. You have to go find the jump ability. I have many reasons for this, all of which are very brilliant. I should win Best Indie Game of the Millennium Award for those reasons. But the problem was nobody understood them. They'd start the game, which I had said with my mouth was a platformer. They'd go in, they'd press the spacebar, nothing would happen. Then they would say, Key of W, you big dumb moron. You don't know how to code a jump. And I'd have to explain, no, actually, I know, it's just you have to get the jump later. So I found myself verbally explaining how the game is played to people who were currently playing the game. Massive disaster. Massive disaster. So I needed a way to communicate my vision, because I certainly wasn't going to change it. I wasn't going to add a jump just to make sure some people didn't yell at me online. I just needed to make sure that it was obvious that I had made this choice and that I acknowledged what the player was trying to do. So all I did was add a very tiny jump. Observe. That is the jump. It is pathetic. You can't jump up anything. The smallest gap right here. This is the smallest thing you could jump onto, and you can't even go up there. So now, what I'm communicating to you, the player, is I know that you're trying to jump. There will be a jump at some point, but this isn't it. So that was my goal with making that change, is to reduce that confusion. Unfortunately, the demo doesn't have that. If you press the spacebar in the demo, nothing happens. Hadn't implemented it yet. You're welcome. Next thing. Okay, this one's just a little thing, but I'm very proud of this because I need all the help I can get. So observe this gem over on the right. You see how it's hovering and there's this little sparkle thing? That's some pretty simple code I put in, right? But every single treasure or item or whatnot in the game was running that exact same code. So if I ever had two of them in the same room, they would hover and sparkle at exactly the same time. And that looked really, really bad. So I just added a little bit of randomness. So the room below this has 3 items. You'll see they're all going to hover at very slightly different rates, or at least they have different starting positions. So they all look like independent objects. And I don't know, I just think this makes a world of difference. It looks a lot better. If you think, graphically it's very simple, imagine what it looked like when they all hovered at exactly the same rate. Very fake looking. Glad I changed it. Next thing. All right, let's talk about keys and doors for a minute. This is a really, really minor issue, but I took note of it because it showed sort of a lack of thought behind some of my decisions. And here's the problem. So you got this door, you need a key to open it. It's kind of hard to tell at first, but the key you'll find pretty easily. It's a circle key. The circle key is red, which matches the red square above me. So far, so good. I'm going to do a little bit of cheating here, and I'm going to move myself over this way. There's the circle key. I'm going to drop on top of this circle key, and we're going to read the text that is in this thing. You got the circle key. This key can open any door with a circle above it. And you can see now in the bottom right corner of the screen, we got a little icon showing we have now earned the circle key. Isn't that great? Well, this is the changed text. The original text read as follows. You got the circle key. This key can open any door with a red circle above it. The only difference is I said red. Now, why is that a problem? You might think colorblind. Yes, that can be an issue. And I think a lot of games fail to include colorblind people until the game's been released and people complain. I don't want to do that. I obviously want to be thinking about that. But because the keys have different symbols and the icons above the doors are different symbols, that's not the issue. Here's the issue. I am leaning hard into this retro aesthetic, right? We got 16 color Tandy 1000 graphics, baby. That's what I'm going for. But I also want to use older computer palettes just for fun. We got some nostalgic palettes here, like everyone's favorite. Look at this. We got our eye-melting magenta, cyan, and white. So I want you to look at the screen and tell me what is red. Correct. None of it is. There is no red on this screen. There is the cannon, which is pink and blue right now, is different shades of gray. The pearlish object, whatever the floating treasure, is actually white and brown. Pod here, the bow is different, like magentas and blues. The flag is blue, and like there really isn't like a straight up red in this image. I could be wrong. Let me actually check. Is there a red? Yes, there is a red on the edge of the flag. That's it. It's the only red. So that is the issue, is that the colors are different. Or what if I want to play it in monochrome? I don't know. Maybe I got nostalgia for the Hercules graphics card, and I want to see some 2-bit monochrome. So when I said that the key opens red doors, that means I have to be playing on a palette that distinguishes the colors correctly. It's very minor, because you can always go back to the TGA 16 color palette, but what it revealed to me was that all of this palette design I did, I wasn't considering. Another lesson I'm trying to learn is figuring out how to tune the difficulty based on where players are struggling or what they're struggling with. So let's walk over here to the left. We're in this room, which we've seen before, I think. In fact, earlier on, we were down in this lower area. We came down from this side. We didn't have our jumps. We drop here. We have to go down. We have to drop there. All very good. When we come back to the room, we're probably coming from this side. And at this point in the game, we just have our regular jump. And if we drop in here, we'll find the jump isn't enough to get up here. And then right above my character, the platform you see wasn't there. It was actually one space higher. So you couldn't jump up there either. Which meant that if a player dropped in here, they still had to drop down here, go around, and go up here. Now this jump is not a hard jump, in my opinion. People were not missing this jump out of a failure to understand how to play platformers. They would usually just drop down thinking this was the way to go. And once they were here, they would realize that was incorrect, the way to go was up. But now they can't get back up without going around this way. And though nobody said outright to me, boy, isn't that frustrating, I could see it on their faces that it was annoying to drop and then go, see, like, oh man, I have to, okay, go around this way again. And then, oh shoot, I missed the jump. Okay, right? This jump doesn't matter. I don't want this jump to have any consequences. And though the consequence is pretty minimal, it's still an irritant that doesn't need to be there. So I have lowered the platform right here. So now you can just jump up through here. Why didn't I do that in the first place? I don't know, just wasn't thinking about it. But little things like that. Another thing. All right, you see this platform, you assume I gotta jump up, I go to the room above, there's gonna be a platform up there. Wrong, there's not a platform up there, it's over here. Why would you know that? I don't know, you can't tell. It's minor. There's nothing wrong with this, right? You don't lose anything, but the player expects this, doesn't get the platform. It's over here. Is that a satisfying thing? I don't think so. This one hasn't been fixed. I don't know why I didn't fix this one, but it's coming soon. I still got lots of changes to make. The other thing is, look at those green sparkly things up there. I've called them buzzsaws, but I realize as I'm looking at them, they could be whatever you want. You can interpret that however you like. I've called them buzzsaws because that was what was in my head when I first made them. But they could also be like little sparkly things. Let me get a thing here just in case I missed this jump. So this jump here isn't too bad. You got to jump over it on the platform. But before this version, those sparkly buzzsaws were actually one tile higher. So you had to jump over, you had to get a much higher jump, clear a bunch more, oh doggone it, I fell down. You'd have to clear them. It was much more difficult, and every player I watched play, without fail, died multiple times there. And I was thinking, should this part be that hard? Like, I don't need the game to be easy. I don't need it to be that if a player struggles anywhere, I have to go, oh no, the game can't be hard. Let me fix that. But is this a part that needs to be a struggle? I don't think so. This is an early part of the game. In fact, just beyond this, you go this way, you grab the square key, which is needed for 2 of the 5 upgrades in the game. So it's like an early game moment. Do I want the early game to feature a jump that's that difficult? What are we teaching the player with a jump that's difficult? Nothing. I have harder jumps later. We'll get to that later. Speaking of tweaking difficulty and all the challenges that come with it, we have this room cryptography. I want you to look over on the left at that ladder. You see that buzzsaw moving back and forth, left and right. Very slow moving buzzsaw. Now, real quick, tell me what that buzzsaw is doing. Correct. That buzzsaw is providing a little extra challenge. We can't just climb this ladder. We have to make sure we don't hit the buzzsaw. Now, tell me, is that an interesting challenge? Correct, it is not, and here's why. All I do is I just have to wait. I just have to sit here and wait for the buzzsaw to pass. Once it passes, I can go. Even worse, there's no other point in the game where I face any challenge remotely similar. So it's not like training me on anything. It's just this extra thing that can kill me, right? It's not doing anything. It serves no other purpose in the game except to just be there, and it isn't interesting enough on its own. So I'm looking at this going, I should probably just remove it or figure out something else that goes here. But why did I put this here? I realized looking at this, why did I put this here? It's because when I was looking at this room earlier, I was telling myself, there's nothing cool. There's nothing to do in this room. But is that even true? I've got these colorful decorations here, which are not colorful if I change this. It's just regular. They're colorful decorations. I've got the gem in the upper right corner, and then I've got this secret passage down to the left. There's already plenty of stuff to do in this room. So what do I need this for? It's this extra thing, and it's the kind of thing that I would call out if I played another game. I would call this out. I would be like, this is the kind of thing a designer does when they're insecure and they feel they need to throw in extra challenges to make sure the player is sufficiently challenged throughout the game. And that's exactly what I was feeling. I was insecure about this room, and I added this thing that wasn't part of my original design because I was insecure about this room being too easy and too boring. So no, this has to go. Okay, something about how Game Maker works is that the game is divided into like distinct rooms, each of which, when it's loaded, like it loads everything in the room, but unloads all other rooms in the game. And I chose to set this game up not as one giant room that just moves the camera as you exit, but as distinct rooms. So this room here, Pod on a Hot Tin Roof, is, somewhere in my grid of rooms. I move here, this is a different room, what's the buzz? Everything in the room I just left is now unloaded, and now I've loaded these enemies here. Now I've just unloaded those enemies, and I've loaded this room. Great. Why is that important? Well, I've got this chimney and the chimney smoke that I added because it looks kind of cute. But then I realized the room above this, the chimney smoke is going to be gone, because when I go into the other room, I'm going to unload the chimney. I'm going to unload the trigger that is creating those chimney smoke things, right? So what I added was, in the room above, is I added another invisible trigger. Hold on, let me just try to do the jump. Let me actually put this on so I can do the double jump. Is I added this guy right down here. So this isn't actually coming from the room below. There is no room below, it's unloaded. There's another object here doing this. I believe if I go up one more, we'll see it again. Do we? Yes, we'll see it here as well. I don't know, I like that. I think that's cool. I'm not just gonna tell you all the stuff I'm failing at. I'm gonna tell you stuff that I think worked out really, really well. It's not gonna be in the room above this, and the reason is, if we look at our map, I'm actually toward the very top of the map. But the map does wrap, so if I go around here, I'm actually in a room. Hold on. I'm in this room down at the bottom. So it's super obvious what I'm doing here. What am I doing? Let's get out of here. So, I don't know. That was a cool thing I did. I actually have one more thing I wanted to show you before I sign off here. So let me go find that spot real quick. Let's talk audio for a second. So you see I'm leaning into the retro aesthetic. I've really gone in with the graphics. We got that 16 color sort of CGA, EGA looking thing. I also wanted to lean in to retro aesthetics for the sound. You'll notice there's no music and there's barely any sound. That is on purpose. I'm not going to add a backing track to the whole game. That would just be a little distracting, I think, with this aesthetic. There are some music tracks going to be in the game, but they're going to be for the special ending cutscenes. That's really the only place you're going to hear them. But it means I want to avoid too many sounds happening at once. Because on those retro machines, they weren't able to do that sort of thing. And it would be a dead giveaway that I'm cheating when it comes to the retro thing if I have like 10 sounds play at once. Now, one way to get around that is to make sure there aren't enough things making sound, but the other way is to run all of my sounds through a sound controller object. So I created an object called a sound controller, which is the thing that plays the sound, not pod jumping. When pod jumps, it doesn't tell the game play the jump sound. Instead, it tells the game to send the jump sound to the sound controller, which is going to check if other sounds are currently playing. And if so, it will cut that sound off and then play the jump sound. So here's the jump sound, and I'm going to do the wall slide sound. There you go. Now, if I jump into the wall quick enough, you're going to hear the jump sound get cut off. This is not cut off. This is cut off. And yes, that retro aesthetic is certainly less than ideal in a lot of scenarios, but I wanted it for this game because I wanted it to feel very... I think that's a really quick way to sell the retro aesthetic. But I did cheat. The sound channel, or the sound controller, actually has 3 channels. And those channels are determined by what is making the sound. The player gets their own channel. There's a channel specifically for objects, and then there's a miscellaneous channel. So, real quick, picking up that is going to play through a different channel than the player channel. So I'm going to see if I can pull this off. Hopefully, I get one shot at this. I'm going to try to jump onto this wall and jump into the ring such that the jump sound overlaps with the collection sound. Yeah, you heard 2 sounds there at once. Hard to tell because those sounds are going through different channels. But I wanted to make sure I didn't have multiple channels for the player because, well, for one, it helps it sound more retro, but the other thing is that you could, if you wanted to, start making actions to play tons of sounds at once, which is not something I wanted to have happen. So hopefully that's nice. That I feel that could be a polarizing choice, but that's the vision I have, so I'm going to stick with it. I'd like to do it in a way that is as comfortable for the player as possible. But it also leads to this really funny thing down here. Hold on, let me go down there. If I jump up these stairs and continue to hold the right key, it just leads to this, which I think is very funny. So I just wanted to show you that. That kind of brings me to the end of my list of things I wanted to show in this devlog. It actually went on a lot longer than I thought, but it turns out that I have a lot to say about my own games. Hopefully that's interesting enough. If you haven't already gone and downloaded the demo, make sure you do that and save your soul. Please do, and let me know if it works. Let me know how that goes. Wishlist the game. Hire a skywriter to tell people to buy the game, all that kind of stuff. I hope to have it out soon, but this is a solo dev project and my first real project. So I do not have the dev experience to know how close I am to done. I'm very sorry about that. I know what it's like to be on the other end, to see a game that looks interesting and have no idea when it's coming out. And I don't want to make promises that I don't know if I can keep. All I can say is if I'm still working on this in 2027, I'm going to be way more upset with myself than you ever could be with me. So I'm hoping to get this out in a few months. That's my hope. And then you can take the game, you can play with it, you can find all the secrets. There will be loads of secrets. The main part of the game is probably 20 to 30% of what you can actually do. There's tons of stuff to find in the game that I don't want to show you today because I don't want to give any spoilers for that sort of thing. Thanks so much. I'm not really the type of person that pores over and reads comments, but if I remember to do that, I'll go back onto my YouTube channel and start reading through and see what you'll have to say. Thank you very much for watching. I hope to have another devlog up sooner than 2 months out. How's that sound? And I'll see you then. Thank you. Have a good day. Goodbye.